Hello, everyone. Assuming that you guys are getting pretty tired of watching presentations, I'm going to try to keep this lighthearted and fun. So my talk is going to be about what's happening with Bitcoin, really, and is anything happening with Bitcoin for real? And is Bitcoin going modular? And why would it be going modular? And what's the deal with OpCat? Is it even happening? So quick intro about me. I am Eric Wall. I'm the a co-founder of Taproot Wizards. We are accused of running the largest spam attack on Bitcoin in its history. This is going to be an apolitical and unopinionated talk, except it's not, because there are no apolitical and unopinionated talks in Bitcoin. Either if someone thinks that they're doing that, they're either brainwashed or they're lying to you. Everything is very political in Bitcoin. And on that note, if we had OpCat, this is what the world would look like. This is a completely unopinionated opinion. Some might say that, this looks awesome, this looks fine, but there's too much MEV going on in that image, so we don't want that. And now you're fully caught up to the current discourse in Bitcoin. That's what we're discussing right now. So some recent history about is anything happening on Bitcoin. Well, you all know probably ordinals, of course. Caused economic demand for the chain in a new way. Some call it spam, others call it innovation. But clearly there's something that's happening on Bitcoin. This is the mempool since 2017. You can see this mountain here. That's a lot of people trying to get their transactions into the Bitcoin blockchain. So it looks like something's happening on Bitcoin. If you look at this chart, this is the fullness of blocks, and you can see that right here, about 18 months ago, the blocks just got very, very full for some reason. And Bitcoin blocks being full causes these kinds of things to happen in the mempool. $25 to make a transaction. And this led to some pretty interesting results that some Bitcoiners weren't aware about, that if you have a Lightning channel that's open, it might automatically force close once you reach a current fee level. So you had people's Lightning channels turning off, and then they were too expensive to turn back on again. And it would cost more money to, if you received a small payment, it would cost more money to settle that on-chain than what you got in the payment. So small payments suddenly didn't work on Lightning anymore. And it led to a bunch of people, this is from Ben DeCarman, who's the developer of Mutiny Wallet, which is a popular Lightning wallet, saying basically we got to rethink Lightning. What is this system actually supposed to, who is it supposed to serve? And this is from Shinobi in Bitcoin Magazine, saying that Lightning, is not going to be a protocol that's going to work retail to retail, but it might be good for something else. And this is not bad news for Lightning. This is how it's always going to be. So they're sort of changing the narrative of what the purpose of Lightning was. And you have John Carvalho, also a Lightning builder, saying that the design of Lightning is kind of a joke, after being a large advocate of Lightning for many years. So that was one good thing that sort of came out of the spam attack of Bitcoin. And we also achieved some other things. So we finally beat Medicare. We finally beat Ethereum in daily transaction fees. And who would win? You got all your 200 rollups, you got LSTs, dApps, MEV, and we got a dick butt that we put on our chain, and somehow, we're able to compete with Ethereum in fee revenue. So I don't know what you guys are up to, but you can do a lot. A dick butt can get you very far, but not to sort of humble that statement a little bit. So these fee spikes in Bitcoin have been kind of irregular and spiky. You see the yellow part here as the the ratio of Bitcoin rewards that are comprised of fee revenue versus the regular block subsidy. So yeah, it has increased, but mostly in like these spikes, and yeah, we're higher now, but in Ethereum, you're around like 20% of the blocks are from fee, like 20% of the revenue from blocks are from fee revenue in Ethereum, and we're not like quite there yet in Bitcoin, but we've made some improvements. So yeah, man, is something happening on Bitcoin? Like, I think we can conclusively answer that question that yes, there is something that's happening on Bitcoin. And now we're going to talk about like what's happening in Bitcoin, and this is not going to be news to anyone, but what basically happened, like this is the 28th, like this right here is the 28th of June, where I made an observation that Bitcoin DA at that time was 10 times cheaper than Ethereum call data. So and that's interesting for people. So if you want to build a sovereign rollup, okay, you're going to get 10 times cheaper DA on Bitcoin. And Bitcoin DA is also, it's a premium commodity in the sense that we constrain our blockchain to only grow by 200 gigabytes per year, which means that you're going to be able to store a full Bitcoin node with a full history on your own computer, and a bunch of other people are also going to do that. So there will be a bunch of default clients storing the entirety of the blockchain, not pruning their history, because we constrain it so that it's so small that people can run it with the default non-pruning settings. So like 2 days after I made this observation, the Bitcoin blockchain has been completely full ever since. And we also played around with this. We put a Taproot Wizard JPEG around here, and then the chain has been full of spam ever since, basically. And we didn't think about it like we're spamming the chain, and we thought about it like Ethereum people are always complaining about you're going to run out of fee revenue for your chain, and like the halvings keep coming, and you're not going to be able to have enough fee revenue to have a security budget for Bitcoin. So we kind of thought about it like we're trying to save like the security problem of the security budget of Bitcoin. We're not like trying to attack. I thought this was the big issue with Bitcoin, that we don't have enough. Anyway, people thought it was an attack. I still think that we're saving Bitcoin, but. So let's talk a little bit more about what is actually happening on Bitcoin. And so it hasn't been all like JPEGs. Yes, a lot of people created these meta token protocols. Everyone wants fungible tokens that they can trade on Bitcoin. And so BRC20 tokens did play a large role, but this is the red part here is images. In May this year, like we still had like 50% was still images. So it's a mishmash of things that people are using the Bitcoin DA for. We kind of dropped off. Like this is here in May, where ordinals died again. But that is actually because there's another protocol called Runes, which doesn't use inscriptions anymore. But you can see that like almost 50% of the fee revenue in Bitcoin is coming from this protocol. It's called Runes, and the sort of the trend of using Bitcoin in more interesting ways is taking different forms, but it's still there. Yeah, I think right now, like in nominal terms, Bitcoin produces maybe like a third or a fourth of Ethereum revenue. So like in nominal terms, we're not producing tons of revenue, but still way up from where we used to be. Let's see. Did my clicker stop working? Okay, so what caused it? Super briefly, so some people think Taproot caused this, but Taproot was like a small incremental change that just made it slightly more easy to pack data into the arbitrary blob space, the arbitrary data space of Bitcoin. So it wasn't really like Taproot changed the game dramatically. Like it was a small thing that happened with Taproot. More than that, it was like a social event where like degens and creatives decided that we can use this common protocol and make things and make NFTs and trade them. But even more than that, I think it's people like Udi Wertheimer and Leonidas just tweeting about this stuff nonstop, making people pay attention to this. But even more than that, it's just the fact that this made Bitcoin maximalists so angry that we're using Bitcoin in this way. That was really the thing that made this very popular, because there's a bunch of people that are Bitcoiners, and then there's like this small clique of Bitcoin maxis that are very angry and they're like very opinionated, and it's you just can't resist like putting a dick butt there and making them get very angry. So we're gonna go into a small segue, like what is Bitcoin actually for? Like what do people actually want to use Bitcoin for? You might think it's like stacking sats, holding, using Lightning, or like buying things on the dark web, transferring stable coins, smart contracts, stored JPEG dick butts, privacy and human rights, Michael Saylor, number go up, SimCult. Like in reality, it's all of these. It's all people want to do all of these things with Bitcoin. And here's the little secret. So we want to be able to do all those things on Bitcoin, but we have technical constraints. Like our main priority is to make sure that the chain is decentralized and censorship resistant. So the extent to which that we can do all those other things I mentioned are defined by our technical constraints. And the technical constraints informs the social dogma. And the social dogma then kind of informs the technical constraints, unfortunately, sometimes. So like when you see a group of people in Bitcoin, and you're like, okay, those guys are the Bitcoiners, and you see them like eating steak and sunning their balls and complaining about the ETF and Ethereum. It's not that those are it's filtered by the things that you can do and you can't do with Bitcoin. So if the only thing that you can do is like sunning your balls and eating steak on Bitcoin, if that's the only thing, those are the Bitcoiners that you're going to see. So if you can't do smart contracts on Bitcoin, the narrative will be that smart contracts are not good. But if you could do smart contracts on Bitcoin, then the narrative would be that Ethereum is going to be displaced by Bitcoin. So like it changes, and just to like give some example of that, so Taproot, for example, the latest soft fork upgrade in Bitcoin, it was a multi-signature improvement, and made scripts larger essentially. But the narrative in the Bitcoin space kind of became that we're going to be able to do infinite complex smart contracts on Bitcoin. And people will say these things like the things that we're going to do with Taproot is going to blow your mind. So all of a sudden, because it's possible now on Bitcoin in a decentralized, censorship-resistant way, now the narrative is that smart contracts are awesome. Except that what happened in reality was that there was Taproot didn't do these things at all, and this is the adoption rate of Taproot during the first year. And then something happened. Can you guess what happened over here in early 2023? Well, that's when we started to put dick butts on the chain, in the form of Taproot transactions anyway. So Taproot did blow people's minds, just maybe not in the way that they wanted to. Anyway, alongside this, with increased interest in Bitcoin and like higher fees and Lightning obviously failing, there's been like demand for new layer 2 protocols. So in May 2023, something called ARC was announced, and ARC was a way to basically do Lightning but without the annoyance of Lightning channels. And if your mental model is that Bitcoiners only want to stack sats and they want to use Lightning, then why are people so excited about like this new Lightning protocol? I thought Lightning was great. Like thought that was the thing that you want to use. So like it shows that people are not really satisfied with the current state of Lightning. And then in October, you had BitVM, and Robin Linus drops this banger of a white paper, which basically says the tagline is compute anything on Bitcoin. And like I haven't seen since like maybe the launch of the Lightning Network itself, the amount of interest among Bitcoiners, like actual Bitcoiners, that really thought that this was great and something that we should do on Bitcoin. So that goes back to what I said, like the technical constraints informs the social dogma. So if the technical constraints changes, so does the social dogma. Right. And we've had more protocols, like this is a Bitcoin native roll-up thing that the same inventor of ARC has made that's also like people are like those things, and it's constrained by what you can build that sort of informs what people like on Bitcoin. So you shouldn't think that Bitcoiners only want to do this one particular thing that you've seen them do on their podcasts. Let's see. Yeah, so people sometimes talk about these BitVM, ARC, rollup protocols. We usually talk about like a 1 out of n honesty assumption that these protocols have in some way, and most people think that that is fine because when you look at Arbitrum, they have whitelisted verifiers, sort of similar, right? But there are more problems with these protocols that we're trying to build on Bitcoin now without making any changes. And this is when opcat comes into the picture. Let's see, I have 3 minutes left. Let's see if I if I can finish this. How opcat really came into the picture is like opcat is a soft fork upgrade to Bitcoin. It introduces a new opcode that allows you to concatenate elements on the stack. Sounds very, very, very primitive and simple, but you can do pretty interesting things with just that small new added functionality to Bitcoin. So interestingly enough, like Robin Linus, the inventor of BitVM, mentions that you can use opcat to make BitVM 100x more efficient. And I think that has to do with the ability to do Merkle root verification in BitVM. So if we had opcat, then maybe these protocols would start to become more practical. And Brock, the inventor of ARC, is also saying like, he's really looking forward to something like opcat because you could with ARC have instant finality and double spend prevention, and you could turn it from an interactive protocol to a non-interactive protocol. So these L2 designers, like, they really are seeing the point of using something like opcat to sort of fix their protocols. But there is a more fundamental issue that's rarely talked about. This is, I don't know how to describe what I'm trying to depict here, but so what is very rarely talked about these protocols like ARC and BitVM is that they require a liquidity hand crank to make the protocol work at all. So in BitVM, the bridge operator has to, like when you make a withdrawal from a BitVM bridge, the bridge operator has to front everyone with the money for the withdrawals that they've withdrawn, and then he can reimburse himself. So he needs like a bunch of cash on hand and sort of spin this liquidity hand crank to make the system work. The same thing was with ARC. Like ARC didn't remove the Lightning channels. It just said that there's going to be a third party called the operator who's going to make channels for everyone, and he's going to be responsible for maintaining all that liquidity. We can't, you can build a bunch of things on Bitcoin today, but you can't really get away from these. This has to do with the only thing that you can do when you're trying to build these protocols. You have to use something called pre-signed Bitcoin transactions. And those protocols can't really define, they have to when you construct them, they have to define where can these funds go. So you can't really enter a contract and be a new user and make a withdrawal to you. So they're fundamentally limited in their design. Luckily, upgrading Bitcoin has been on the agenda for quite some time. This is from Roseby from Lightning Labs, an unofficial roadmap thing that has been talked about among a bunch of people. Is that we want to get generic covenants into Bitcoin. And generic covenants, the way that you can think about them is that if you have a UTXO in Bitcoin, you have the input side. These are the inputs that you're trying to spend. And then from that, you are trying to make new unspent transaction outputs from that. And we know how to, on the input side, satisfy the requirements for those inputs. We can prove that I own those funds by demonstrating a signature or a pre-image of a hash lock. But covenants allow you to restrict what happens on the output side. So we can say this output that comes out of this transaction needs to look in a particular way, so that you can move Bitcoin UTXO essentially from one state to another, sort of like a state machine fashion, and you can create these sort of mini computers inside of Bitcoin, and you can start to create something that actually looks like the traditional withdrawal games that you have in an optimistic rollup or other L2 designs like Plasma on Bitcoin today if you had that covenant primitive. So if you want to understand like what Opcat is, take a picture of this real quick. This is the best website to like understand what is Opcat. There's also a song by Jonathan Mann. If you haven't listened to this song, I highly recommend that you do. And another interesting thing about Opcat is like Opcat is already in the code of Bitcoin. Like you can still, it used to be in Bitcoin. It was designed by Satoshi himself. He just deactivated it. Let's see, how long is it? Like 14 years ago. So we're not like trying to come up with some new crazy thing. We're just trying to activate a previously deactivated opcode that already exists in the code base today. So we, our company, we created like in order to get people to draw attention to this opcode, we created an NFT collection that sort of evolves with time as we get closer to Opcat activation. More layers and traits will be concatenated as layers on top of these cats, sort of pay homage to like how Opcat works. And if you're interested in like the process and the progress of Opcat, there's a link here. I'm going to show it later. How far along we are in the stage of Opcat activation. And if you have ever used mempool.space, all Bitcoiners know about this. Opcat is already activated on Signet now, so you can like make Opcat transactions. You can start playing around with it, and it will be visible in this well-known block explorer that everyone uses. So people are already using it on Signet. It's already activated there. And why we want to do that is that we want to get away from this liquidity handcrank thing, right? That's the thing that we don't want to have. We want to be able to build things where if I have funds in a bridge, I can withdraw those funds to me. I don't want an operator to have to send me funds and then he refunds himself, and it creates this sort of liquidity inefficiency. We have a white paper, sorry, a children's book. Yeah, it's so we have a children's book. If you go to catvm.org, you can read about how you take the cat opcode and build something that looks more like an optimistic rollup without like liquidity handcranks. And so far it's going really well. Right now Opcat is like the front runner soft fork for Bitcoin, and it's not like I don't want to take the credit for like our company or our effort. What we basically analyzed was that Opcat has broad support from the Bitcoin ecosystem. This is Blockstream. Blockstream was largely the company that was involved in the previous soft forks of Bitcoin. They are also fans of Opcat. They only have good things to say about it, how simple it is, and like the extra functionality it provides to Bitcoin, even in like custody situations. So the effort to activate Opcat, I like this tweet. Like 8 months ago, Opcat was like a fringe proposal, but now it's gaining broad support. And if you were at the most recent Bitcoin-centric developer conference in Austin, the consensus among the developers there was basically that we want Opcat. So we already have a developer consensus that Opcat is going to get activated. Of course, there are more constituents in Bitcoin than just the developers, but we're on very good track to actually getting this activated. And if you want to follow along to how this is going, there's a website link here beneath that I recommend you to check out. And I'm way over time, so let's see. Yeah, if you are interested, like if you're in Ethereum or in the Celestia space or any other space, and you're thinking that maybe I can, use this thing called Opcat, and I can maybe create optimistic rollups or plasmas or other designs. The competition in that space right now is extremely low, and we're talking about $1 trillion asset, right? Bitcoin, building on Bitcoin, and you can be like the competition is so low. Like even if you're just a mediocre senior architect building roll-up plasma type designs, you can be a superstar in the Opcat world in Bitcoin right now. So if you're interested in that, this is my handle on both Telegram and on Twitter. Hit me up if you're interested in hacking on Bitcoin. And I think I'm way over time, so thank you guys very much.